Hi, everyone. I'll give it a minute just so we're on time, but we have a quorum here, so I won't take too much time from everyone. Thanks for being here. All right, my clock says 7. Let's get to it. I really appreciate everyone taking time. It looks like at the moment it is, yeah, mostly just us commissioners. But thank you. The purpose of tonight was the March 23rd emergency meeting that was called very late with a kind of approval or a nod from ANC that this is in line with our rules to have an emergency meeting to decide upon a special meeting. It's a bit confusing. I'll very briefly just recap for the record what brought us to tonight. So typically it makes the most sense to announce, we have to announce any special meeting or election, or both in this case, at a public meeting. I was hoping to do that March 1st at our normal meeting, was not prepared to do so for reasons I think we've discussed, just because it wasn't clear what our venue would be for some problematic reasons, but we're getting through it. But because we didn't anticipate having a special election or the need for a special election, which happened to fall in the time period where our most conveniently scheduled meeting, during which, actually, sorry, I'm a bit convoluted. Elections always have to be during a meeting. So it could be during a typical meeting, but coincidentally, without the understanding in January, when we decided our year's schedule, that we'd have a vacancy with the most convenient meeting being a religious holiday, that is April 5th. It makes the most sense, and it's, I think, the most accommodating to not have an election on that day, although we have a meeting. So because of that, and because of one of the candidates was dissatisfied with the proposed election site that I had discussed with one of the neighbors, who is a former commissioner who was kind enough to volunteer his time and a location for the event that was very conveniently located in the middle of the neighborhood. ANC basically said, not worth the effort to fight it. Let's just find another spot, which has taken quite a bit of work on my part, but I think I've found a couple alternatives. Neither is as good as the one I thought that we had, which would be free and in the middle of where everyone lives, but we'll do what we can. I've attempted to contact Goodwill Baptist Church many times, but I just haven't been able to get anything from them, unfortunately. That would probably be a pretty good location, but I can't tell them what to do with their space, so it's not an option at this moment. So I guess we rule it out. The two places I have heard from, first, date and time. Unless anyone has any issues, I think that the best time that I've discussed with ANC, because they'll have to have staff there, which was another factor. They didn't think they'd need that, and then it turned out we did. So there are a lot of pieces at play, which is kind of why this ended up a bit messy. But April 1st from roughly 10:30 to 3:30 p.m. None of us represent or live in 1C01, so it's difficult for us to fully gauge, but I think that's the time. Mr. Balik, he said he'd be able to be there, and he's made sure that he's as impartial as possible, hasn't signed any petitions, hasn't done anything to make sure that there's somebody if needed, which we do need someone. Also, I believe Kathy Williams from ONC will be physically present as well to make sure that there's another party monitoring till the election. I'm pretty sure that I'm supposed to be there at the end to get the election results. So we'll have a special meeting. It'll be a bit weird, and I know ANCs have done this elsewhere because ONC told me, but basically, like I've said amongst ourselves, we can just log on, as far as I was told, leave our computers on. It just has to technically follow the rules that there is a meeting going on. We don't have to be speaking or even, as far as I was told, present in our homes with the computers, just so there is a meeting going on. It's a bit of bureaucratic kind of stuff we just have to deal with instead of having it during a meeting. But because of that, any issues, comments on April 1st, 10:30 to 3:30 as the date? Okay, so the two places that I've confirmed that are available in that time, one is the Line Hotel, which has a community space, which was specifically built and lobbied for by the ANC at the time for events like this. It would be free of charge. However, it is not in the SMD and is a bit of a distance from the people who live there by our very luxurious standards of a dense neighborhood. So that's one option. The other is the Hilton, which is actually in SMD 1C01, but they would charge us $500. So if we would want that, we'd have to decide that we want to pay for and vote on it tonight. I don't know what our budget is exactly in terms of that. We haven't gotten to deep discussions lately, or the last couple of weeks, about what our budget is. Our treasurer is not here. If anyone has comments on really what your preferences are, well, not preferences, but what your suggestions are, and how the budget factor comes in. This would be the time to bring those up. I think it makes sense to defer to not spending our money just because we have a free location available. Commissioner Fauschini, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to default to the same. We have the space at the line. It's free. It's open to us to use. I think it behooves us to use that money for community purposes and not for something that, quite honestly, the Board of Elections should be paying for.
I agree. And that was kind of frustrating. I had multiple conversations where it was kind of both with OANC and also, I think maybe Board of Elections. I can't remember. And also, as I'll put it, people in the community who kind of thought it was just this automatic that we should pay for it with our budget. And I thought it was kind of, I felt alone in the conversations because it was, we don't have the option to not hold the election. And we already have allocated our budget for meetings. And because we need to have a special meeting because of the circumstances, we're essentially being forced to use money that wasn't ever set aside for that. So I like the idea of getting it as close to the people as possible to try to incentivize turnout. I think that's important. I had that set up. OANC advised of shifting away from it because one of the candidates was very much opposed to that, claiming it was favoritism. I disagreed, but I think the line makes sense for those reasons. I was very glad that at the last minute they happened to have one space available, which if they hadn't, I don't know what we'd do. We'd pay money.
How's the process though? I mean, are people just gonna go and vote like normal at the location?
So good question. I've never physically participated in a special election myself, but it has to be in person for that reason, just because DC's Board of Elections is technically election that DC, just like any other election in DC, it's just turnout is usually like 10 people. So hopefully it's more, but you have to physically go in, use a physical ballot. An interesting question, which I don't want to know the answer to, is if people could vote from home. But I think it's just everyone goes, there's physical ballots. The Board of Elections technically is involved, but I think only like as a distant party, they kind of hand it off to OANC to be their proxy, just to simplify it. At least that's what I was told. So it kind of got complicated as well, because I was originally told that the ANC or the OANC can run the election. And I said, well, we have a space, we have a person to run it, we have everything set up, a date and time. And then that changed. So, and then also the ONC said, well, I've learned that the rules for us, the ONC, have changed. So yeah, a lot of information. You just go in person and fill out a ballot. I hope that it's printed out by the Board of Elections. It might be ONC, but those are provided. We don't have to do anything. If we do, that's, yeah, I'm not gonna blame for that.
So, okay, so what would our responsibility be during the election? I mean, I could be there in person if need be, or is it just, I guess I'm not quite understanding what our...
Only thing that we need to do is that a special election can only take place during an official publicly open ANC meeting. We could have it on April 5th. It is a religious holiday. It is not a holiday, but it is a religious holiday. So that's, I just have no intention of fighting that fight.
Right.
I think that there's a legal case for us, but I have no interest in finding out if we could win, because what's the point? We'll just find out every day. So the complication with that is that we have to have some meeting and we have to have a special meeting, and that has to be announced at a public meeting. But because we weren't ready to give the specified date and time, March 1st, we had to have a special meeting, because I also learned that the 90-day deadline exists for swearing someone in, which is April 9th. So if we were to have it, basically it was just a crunch and I wasn't expecting it. I was prepared and then these plans got messed up, but we're making do.
Okay.
So that is the question.
Yeah.
So the only responsibility we would have as commissioners is for a quorum to be signed into a meeting and for the meeting to just be going on, and a meeting can include silence. So that's what I would plan on doing. Commissioner Laughlin, go ahead. What's up?
So to follow up on that, we just would need to be logged into the Zoom meeting for that time period.
That's what I was told by the office of ANC. I'll like quadruple check with them again, just because why not?
But so we can do like improvisational dance or whatever, just as long as
well, we can keep our cameras off.
Yeah. No, understood. I'm just,
No, I get you. We can filibuster and read from Green Eggs and Ham, whatever, but...
Right. Got it. Well, but anyway, I'm sorry, Commissioner Laughlin, go ahead. Sorry.
And then the second question I have, so can we as the ANC 1C commission, like, will we send out, and an email or put something on the listserv or ask our community groups in the area to help advertise about it, or just
So
help advocate? Are we allowed to help with that, or do we need to let the candidates do that?
I'll answer that in a couple of parts. So it is not an election per se, it is an election occurring during a special meeting. So any special
Okay.
meeting has to give, with some exceptions like an emergency meeting like this, if it's a regular special meeting, if that category exists, has to have 7 days or more notice. So we'll just do, that's just the typical protocol for an ANC meeting, which ours has been, I've discussed with our treasurer, or excuse me, secretary, Commissioner Falskini, just put it on the ANC website, send it out to groups.io, the listserv for the neighborhood. Anything else is additional and great, and I definitely support that, especially when it's informational, saying, hey, there's an election, if it affects you, suggest you vote. The line would be using official ANC resources to suggest that people vote for a specific candidate. We cannot do that. But personally, I mean, we're absolutely allowed to, on a personal individual capacity, say, I am a commissioner. Outside of my official duties, I have a preference, and I'm allowed to tell you what that preference is, but we can't use government resources to do that. So not suggesting or dissuading anyone from taking that second route. It's just an option like any election. So that's, I think the important part is that we should just at least do the, hey, vote if you can. Turnout for these is usually very low.
And this is one
which is-
CO1, one
One
CO1.
That is
Okay.
Yeah,
the
I'm
Southwestern
totally
Pennsylvania.
neutral. I just would like to kind of get the word out about it, because you know what I mean. I just want as many people to have the opportunity to vote, and I'm kind of with everyone. Like I would like it to be closer in proximity, but if they're charging $500 and we really shouldn't really be paying for that, then I would say the line. I mean, and
I
just
agree.
get the word out. Just make it more accessible and easy to vote in terms of, like I say, publicizing the
No, I
event.
feel the same way.
So-
Like ideally, like I said, if Goodwill had been more responsive, I mean, maybe they're just busy. It's okay. So I won't hold it against them. This was last minute. But something like that is closer to the actual district would be ideal, just because turnout is so low. Like I said, had that available so people would literally just walk, 2 blocks or less. But unfortunately, that's not a feasible option at this moment. So the line, I think, makes the most sense for all those reasons we mentioned. So thanks for bearing with us. I know it's very beautiful weather and this was the last minute, so I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. We have any other questions, comments on the matter at hand? All right, so I will move for us to, how do I want to say this? To have a special meeting during which a special election will be held for 1CO1 on April 1st from roughly 10:30 to 3:30. I say roughly because I think it has to be 4 hours. And that's just giving extra window for ANC to show up and get things set up. I don't know how long that'll take. Can I get a second? Oh, at the
Second.
Line Hotel. I'll add that it should be at the Line
Yeah.
Hotel's community space on the condition that they still have it available, which if they don't, good God.
Well, and like I had said before, I mean, not that it's necessary, but I do volunteer my time if you need it, and the line's right down the street from me. So let
Perfect.
me know, because I believe in access to, obviously, to voting and democracy. So I will facilitate that.
That's wonderful. That's noted. It doesn't seem like we'll need it, but it's not completely ruled out. So I'll let you know just in case. Someone seconded, correct? All right. So all in favor of the motion to have an election during a special meeting, April 1st at the Line during those times, please say aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Looks like the motion passes 5-0. We'll get the word spread out, have something official so it's easy to send out. Again, thank you, everyone. Hopefully this wasn't too painful. Hopefully we won't have to do this type of thing again, or at least we'll be better prepared. Just the circumstances ended up a bit strange. So I really appreciate it and have a good evening.
thank you.